So why exactly do we say, I love pizza, but he loves pizza? I mean, where does that S even come from, right? Well, today we're diving into the present simple tense. And don't worry, there's going to be no confusing jargon here, just some really simple rules to get you speaking naturally.
Picture this. You're outside enjoying the day and suddenly a huge bug flies right in your face. You swat it away and yell, "I hate mosquitoes." Now, this is a strong emotion. It's a true fact about you. You hated them yesterday, you're going to hate them today, and probably tomorrow too. For facts and true feelings like this, we always use the present simple tense.
Welcome to the Explainer. Let's take a little trip into what I like to call the always kingdom. Now, in English, we have the now, things happening this exact second, like I am teaching. But we also have always. The present simple is basically the official language of the always kingdom. It's reserved for those permanent situations and daily routines that just don't change much.
Let's look at some examples of what actually lives in this always kingdom. First up, permanent jobs. Think, I work at a bank. That's your regular day-to-day job. Next, we have universal facts, things that are just always true. The sun rises in the east. And finally, we have your routines. I eat pizza on Fridays. Because, every Friday, without fail, you do this. So facts, habits, and permanent states, they all live right here.
All right, time for a quick micro practice. How would you fill in the blank here? The sun, blank, in the east. The base verb is rise. What's the answer? Say it out loud. If you said rises, you are absolutely correct. It's a permanent, always fact. Moving on to section 1, the S magnet. He, she, and it. So, back to our very first question. Why do we say he loves? Well, it's all because of this magical little thing called the S magnet. You see, the subjects I, you, we, and they are totally normal. We just use the base verb. I work, you dance. But he, she, and it act like actual magnets. They literally pull an S right onto the end of the verb. Let's see this magnet in action. He works. She reads. It barks. You hear that? Listen to that S sound at the end. He, she, and it just cannot stand to be alone. They absolutely must have that S attached to their verbs. Now, I know spelling can be a little tricky sometimes. Most verbs just take a simple S, like cooks. But if a verb ends in a buzzing or hissing sound, like SS, SH, CH, or X, we have to add an ES. So wash becomes washes. And if a verb ends in a consonant followed by a Y, here's the trick. We drop the Y entirely and add IES. So a word like study becomes studies. Okay, time to test that out with another practice. She, blank, hard. The verb is study. Think about our S magnet and that spelling rule we just looked at. Well, because our subject is she, we know we absolutely need the S. And following the rule, we drop the Y and add IES. So the answer is, she studies hard. Nailed it. All right, on to section 2, the does monster, where we tackle negative sentences.
So, what actually happens when we want to say no? Let's start with a normal affirmative sentence. He works. But then we want to make it negative. Cue the does monster. It attacks the sentence and turns it into he doesn't work. But wait, where did the S go? The monster literally ate it. That's the secret here. Whenever we use doesn't, the main verb loses its S. So you should never say he doesn't works.
Now you might be wondering, is anyone safe from this monster? Actually, yes. I, you, we, and they are completely safe. They just use do not or don't, like I don't play. But he, she, and it, they attract the does monster every single time. They use does not or doesn't. The golden rule to remember here is that after don't or doesn't, your main verb never, ever has an S. Let's put that into practice. He, blank, meet. We need to use the negative form of eat. What's it going to be? Okay, since the subject is he, our does monster appears. So it's he doesn't eat meat. Heck, he probably doesn't eat mosquitoes either if we think back to our bug from earlier. The monster ate the S, so notice it's eat, not eats. Great work. And now for our final piece of the puzzle, section 3, the question swap, asking questions. In English, we actually change the order of the words when we want to ask a question. I call this the question swap. Basically, we take our helping verbs, do or does, and we just swap them right to the very front of the sentence.
It's basically a giant flag waving around saying, hey, this is a question.
Let's look at some examples. Do you work on Fridays? See how do is right there at the front? Or how about, does he speak French? Now, just like with our hungry monster, when does is in the question, there is absolutely no S on the main verb. And if you happen to have a question word, like who, what, or where, that goes at the very, very beginning, like, where do you live?
So how do we answer these naturally? You really don't need a super long sentence. If someone asks you, does he speak French, just listen for that very first word. It's does. So your short, conversational answer is simply, yes, he does, or no, he doesn't. If they ask, do they need help? You just say, yes, they do. It's super easy and it sounds incredibly natural.
All right, final micro practice. Plank, you like songs? Which helping verb do we need to swap to the front here? Well, the subject is you, so no does monster needed. We just need do. Do you like songs? And how would you answer that? Yes, I do.
Let's do a quick recap to lock all this in. First, we explored the always kingdom, which is your go-to for facts, routines, and permanent states. Second, we met the S magnet, where he, she, and it magnetically pull an S onto positive verbs. And finally, we faced the does monster, where does completely eats the S off the verb in negatives and questions. And there you have it. You now know the core rules of the present simple. But before we wrap up this explainer, I have a quick quiz for you. Blank, you speak English. Is it do or does? If you said do, you got it. Now it's your turn to apply this. What is one routine that you always do? Drop it in the comments below using the present simple. Keep practicing, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.